sitting in my room, reading some BSJ and Gork fanfiction. Not sexual, of course, but I feel the barrel of a gun softly press against the back of my head. An ominous voice whispers in my ear. Name the game with the most inexorable fanbase in the world. I whisper back, softly. I don't know what inexorable means. After I Google it, I confidently answer, Dota 2. The gun uncocks, the barrel withdraws into the shadows, and the murky figure steps into the light. Gaben. And don't you forget it, bitch, he shrieks, before swiftly disappearing. You know why I survived? Because over Dota 2's history, Anti-Mage has always been played the same.
Blink dagger? Really?
Battle Fury AM is nothing less than iconic, and the Dota 2 community has refused to budge on this build for over 10 years. Until now.
I'm Anti-Mage, bitch.
Anti-Mage is now a god-tier offlaner. Let me show you. First, highlight offlane and start hovering over normal, boring offlaners like Sand King and Slardar. This is only a diversion. You will not be picking these boring sacks of shit. You'll be picking Anti-Mage.
No. Wait. Hey. Wait.
Pay serious attention to what the enemy team picks in their first 2 picks. You are ideally looking for one or more of the following. A hero that is annoying to kill, but does not like to get their mana drained. Examples include Medusa, Timbersaw, or Abaddon. Or B, a hero that uses a lot of mana to do damage, such as Storm Spirit, Leshrac, or Skywrath Mage. If they pick one of these types of heroes, and they most certainly will because there are a lot of them in Dota and they're currently very good, then you've got them right where you want them. Once you see that from the first 2 picks it looks like a decent Anti-Mage game, then slam the pick button before you can second guess yourself. At this point, your team will be questioning whether or not you're griefing. So make sure that you remind them that you are only unintentionally griefing by typing, I'm buying a Vanguard, in Allied chat. Start the game with a QB, a bunch of stats and basic regen, and then walk to the runes while pretending that you're not a psychopath. The biggest tip that I have for laning on Anti-Mage is that he's actually a really strong laner, only if you don't grief the lane at level 1. This is because at level 1, you have to choose between Blink and Mana Break, so either you have no harass or no escape. But then, at level 2, you can beat the shit out of them with Mana Break and then blink out when it's looking sussy. So, make sure that you play the first couple of waves passively. Next up, you need to decide what your first item will be. If you find that you're slamming them a lot and winning the lane, then getting an Orb of Venom and eventual Orb of Corruption is great for better murder. If the tables are turned and they're slamming you, then rushing a Ring of Health into Vanguard is absolutely the play. During the lane, your job is to bully the enemy carry and make them flame the shit out of their support. Because you drain mana, no carry in the world is going to want to trade with you, so it's always the right play to 1v1 the carry if possible. Anytime they walk up to CS, hit them as many times as you can. On the side of the lane though, do pay attention to what's going on with the pathetic support battle. If the 5 walks too far out of position, it's very easy for you to blink over and get a few solid hits in. And maybe you can even kill them, depending on their level of patheticness. Also, pay attention to mana pools. If either enemy is close to 0 mana, yell at your other guy that you want to do murder, and then spam ping the 0 mana dude in lane. In an ideal laning stage, you get a couple of kills, and then eventually take the tier 1 by tanking it with your Vanguard plus high armor. Next up, we're going to look at what you do in the mid game. If you like inflicting pain upon your enemies, then laning stage is cool and all, but the mid game is where you really make the enemies hate you. In the mid game, there are 2 possible game states that you have to care about, and therefore 2 different playstyles of offlane Anti-Mage depending on the state. Either A, your team wants to fight, in other words you're from SEA, or B, your team wants to farm, in other words you're from NA. In either case, you're cool with it, and I'll show you exactly what your response should be to your idiot teammates. Let's cover fighting first. In this case, you go wherever the hell you think the battle is going to be. In the fight, your job is to jump the pathetic, salty backliners and drain their mana. If the enemy team is stupid, then they'll let you kill their supports for free, in which case you win the fight and get huge. If the enemy team is smart, they'll protect their supports, and then you'll bait a bunch of spells on you. A hero who is tanky that can also literally reflect spells. This is how you tank as Anti-Mage. Your job is to be an annoying fuck in the team fights, so that way the enemy team has to inefficiently press their spells on you or they die. One or the other, the choice is theirs. Okay, let's take a look at the other game state. Let's say your team wants to farm. In this case, well, you're Anti-Mage, dude. You're totally cool with this, obviously. Because you're so insanely tanky and you can instantly escape ganks with Blink, here's what you want to do. Look at the minimap. Your job is to analyze this thing and put your guy in the most annoying place possible. Some possibilities here are 1. Hitting the strong guy on the enemy team. In some games, there is a big, tanky, annoying guy that everyone else on your team is scared of, like a Timbersaw or a Necrophos. Oftentimes, if you run at that guy and mana drain them, they become sad, and your teammates become happy because the big scary strong guy is now useless since they have no mana. Sometimes you'll die doing this, but it's okay. You're an offlaner, so it's actually space. Number 2, you can go hit jungle camps and creep waves right in front of the enemy base. BSJ would actually call this pressure farming. Basically, you're tanky as fuck, and if people go on you, you reflect their spells and then blink out and laugh at them. So, if you see a creep wave on the other side of the map that your team is too afraid to farm, that's probably the best place for you to go. You're not gonna die there, you'll be fine. So, don't farm this shit right here, or this shit either. That's for your stupid weak-ass carry. You farm this stuff right in front of their base, be a Chad. The idea here is that you get to farm, but you're acting as a sort of wall, protecting your team from enemies by very literally being the first guy that they run into if they run at your team on the map. The bottom line is that if you are farming on Anti-Mage offlane, do it in a way that is annoying for the enemies and not for your team. But wait, there's more. There's something that I didn't tell you, intentionally, but now you're ready. In Dota, you have to follow the ebb and flow of the game. Sometimes your team wants to fight, and then the next minute, they want to farm. This is precisely where offlane Anti-Mage goes from B tier to S tier. If you follow one tip, you can be at every fight, but then also farm when your team wants to farm. That tip? Do not press TP. You know why AM is a strong carry? Because he blinks between camps, and so he can farm insanely quickly with the Battle Fury. Blink. Blink is why Anti-Mage is a strong carry, at least why he can farm extremely quickly. So, naturally, if you want to switch roles, you can bet your ass that you're going to need to make Blink work for that role. The difference for offlane Anti-Mage is that instead of blinking between camps and farming, you are blinking between objectives. If you ever respawn, break the habit of immediately teleporting out of base. Instead, blink to the tower that's being pushed, blink to that bounty rune that you want to steal, and so forth. This way, you always have a TP scroll available, and therefore you can show up to literally any fight. Very few offlaners have this luxury, and it's something that can be abused to a ridiculous degree. So, the last thing that I want to talk about is items. And this is very, very important, because it's actually a specific item combo that you can do as of 7.31 that makes this hero even viable in the offlane. That combo is the fact that Diffusal Blade now stacks with Mana Break, and on top of this, Diffusal Blade is 650 gold cheaper than it was previously. And Mana Break now slows by 40% when the target is fully out of mana. So, you can jump on an enemy, diffusal them, then by the time the diffusal buff wears off, they'll be fully mana drained and slowed by 40%. In other words, Anti-Mage, for the first time ever, has a good disable, a permanent move speed slow. This makes him a ridiculous support assassin at all points of the game, with only one item. The general item build goes as follows. Vanguard, so you're tanky, Diffusal Blade, so you're not just a tank, Manta Style, so you can drain 3 times the amount of mana, and then after Manta, you might be tempted to get a Scotty, Butterfly, or some other carry item like that. I can tell you, if you do this, you'll live with regret. Get an Abyssal Blade. It's a nice BKB piercing disable at the exact point of the game that all of the enemies will have BKBs, and it makes use of your earlier Vanguard. After that, the world is your oyster, do whatever you want, build a Nullifier, build a Scotty, you'll probably have won the game by that point. Okay, in this last part of the video, I want to do a lightning round where I cover the absolute most important tips and tricks that I've learned on offlane Anti-Mage. When your team ignores you because you're offlane anti-mage, pick up a wand and a raindrop. Otherwise, you will not have mana to press all of your stuff. Tip number 2, tread swap to int for blinks. It's the same thing as what I just said. Basically, this hero actually needs mana, and unfortunately, there are not many items that you buy on him that will give you that mana, so you definitely need to tread swap. Tip number 3, in games where you have some safe lane Legion commander or something stupid like that, you can always disassemble your Vanguard into Battle Fury. But heed this warning. Don't do this if you have a real carry. Building Battle Fury on offlane anti-mage is almost always griefing, and you should only do it in times of desperation. Tip number 4, remember, you're an offlaner, but you're still anti-mage. If a game is really tough and it seems like you just can't win a fight, cutting creep waves and split pushing like an asshole is always an option. Sure, without a Battle Fury, it's not as quick, but you are way tankier and you can still make a ton of space while your team catches up with farm.